We have our last panel session for the day. And it's actually a fireside chat. Let's pivot to a topic at the heart of modern innovation, titled, Time to Bring AI to the Boardroom. Our speakers are ready to unpack the transformative impact AI could have at the highest levels of leadership and decision making. So please welcome on stage Emily Miedema, Chief Financial Officer in a global financial sector, Chetty Matthews, owner of Headspace Coaching, and Ankit Bhuti, Chief Customer Officer at Quartify. Let's welcome our last panel for the conference. Woo!
Don't leave. Well, thank you. Well, that's a nice question. Hi, Ma. Excuse me, but I'm going to pick my phone because I left it here. Thanks, everybody, for staying here. I know this is the last panel of the day and of the conference. Appreciate it. My friends who are here supporting us. Love it.
Partners who are supporting me. Hi, Hannah.
I love it. And I thank everyone for supporting me. I actually really do appreciate you being here. I wanted to start this off talking about AI in the boardroom. There's so many places we can go with this. And corporate governance is a big deal. We think of it as just people that sign things and say yay and nay and approve, Robert's rules. So much more that goes into it. And if you've ever been on a board that's missing a skill set, you want to find a way to accelerate that skill or find that skill, that gap that you have. So one thing I want to do is talk about how we can use AI, artificial intelligence, in some form to benefit us in the boardroom without violating your fiduciary responsibilities. There's a parameter there. Is it important? Absolutely yes. Can it be misused? Absolutely yes. If you're a board member, are you on the hook for that? Absolutely yes. There we go. So what do we do about that? What do we do? And I should start with you because you're a tech head. I mean, this is your space. You are like a tech thought leader who is really the vanguard and the cutting edge of technological advances. And you know more about AI than I could ever learn.
Thank you for that great introduction. I'm not sure if all of that is accurate. Mostly true, but subjective, right? Yes, I'm an engineer by trade, and I've founded 2 companies before, and I've been in 2 smallish boardrooms because we were VC backed, so we had a boardroom. But what's the question again?
The importance of AI, and really, how can we use AI in a boardroom?
How can we use AI in a boardroom? For note-taking. That would be the most pragmatic solution, I believe. Right? So AI in the boardroom for note-taking sounds good, just like any other meeting room. But more importantly, and I guess because this is a panel, I'd say there's a lot that gets discussed in a boardroom, good, bad, and ugly. And it seems like AI is a good neutral entity in the boardroom that can filter a lot of that out for us, right? So, board members are always looking for analytics and KPIs from all the members as to what each of the person has done. So I think AI is a great way to fetch information in a boardroom, which is readily available. And I'm just giving some pragmatic and utility out of AI because I want to start with the usefulness of AI. Sure, there are lots of negatives and some weird consequences of having AI in the boardroom as well.
I think it makes for an honest conversation. There's a polarity with everything, good and a bad. It's
right.
To discuss both so you can actually make a sound decision. I mean, you know all about sound. You're an executive who makes sound decisions all the time. I mean, CFOs don't exactly kind of half do their job. Your precision is your thing.
Again, thank you for that introduction.
It's true. Again, it's the truth.
But I would add to what Ankit said, just when you're talking about AI in the boardroom, you're going to run into 2 major problems. One is trust from the board members of the software itself. And the other is what you didn't bring up is the data management of it and the privacy rules. And you're going to be looking at multiple countries. If you look at some of my former organizations, they were global, and so they had privacy laws and rules in all of the different regions that we operated in.
I use an AI tool right now for my boards, and one of the things I would tell everyone is, would anyone mind if I record this? I'm going to record this using this AI device. And what it does really is it catches all the text, all the words, and it summarizes all the tasks, it summarizes it. It saves so much time for our secretary that it enables us to kind of get on with the more important things that have to be done. But you bring up an amazing point. Large language models use a lot of aggregate data. And if we have proprietary information, I mean, I've got the secret to Coca-Cola, and we're in the boardroom talking about the secret to Coca-Cola. Where is that information getting pulled into? I mean, is it now feeding into the large language model? Is it in the GPT? I don't know. Is it? But if it's confidential, we have to be very mindful of what we put out to a GPT. Sometimes it's yours and it's in-house and it's kind of local, so it's just based on its own information. But what if it's going out to a larger, enlarged GPT and some 17-year-old says, hey, what is the ingredients to Coca-Cola? And now all of a sudden it's in there, so it would be these things. I mean, there's a risk there. There's a risk there that private knowledge now becomes common knowledge that is feeding other people to extract that information that is proprietary to you. And if that happens, in my mind, maybe I'm wrong, but you have an obligation of loyalty, a duty of loyalty, a duty of care, and a duty of oversight or good faith as a board member. And if you violate one of those things, you better have some D&O insurance because it's going to be expensive when people start suing you as the board member for negligence.
That's right. Well, I feel like identity is a big topic that we've not discussed too much in this conference just yet. I mean, I've seen a lot of panels. And AI is not just one identity because there's different models. So there's different kind of AI. There is the Gemini and there's the ChatGPT, and then there is other kinds as well. So I feel like the panel topic is time to bring AI to the boardroom. Absolutely yes. Should there be just one kind of AI in the boardroom? Probably not. We're going towards a multi-agent world, and probably we should have multiple agents in the boardroom because agents can then cross-verify each other, make sure one or the other is not hallucinating on us in the boardroom. Hallucination is obviously a big problem with AI right now.
Can we talk more about hallucinations and false data? You work in a space that's just precision. I mean, numbers have to be the numbers, and they have to be right. It's discrete. There is no, it's kind of this. We kind of made $17 million-ish. I mean, if you're saying ish a few times, you're probably looking for, update your resume because they're probably going to fire you. You deal with exact, I mean, things for you have to be, the margins are so tight. So how can you use a large language model that might give you some hallucinations and tell you a number that's not true? Now you're acting as an executive on faulty information. Or we're giving you direction as a board on like, we want you to do this thing. And you're like, okay, based on the numbers, yes, but the numbers are false.
It's true, trusting AI, it can be a really big challenge. And I think one of the things that you really have to look for as your organization is going towards bringing more AI into your organization is hiring people that know how to operate the AI and how to translate the AI information that is coming to you so that it's not just spitting out the answer for you and you're not verifying that. So you need to bring in staff that can do that task.
Call that prompt management. You might hear this about garbage in, garbage out. I think in the AI space that can be true as well. It's only as good as the information and the questions and the prompts you put into it to get the results out of it. But you made another point as well. I mean, there's generative AI, there's analytic AI. I mean, there's different kinds of artificial intelligence. So we have to be very careful about when we say that. What do we exactly mean? What does that mean?
I believe it's not only about using AI in the boardroom. It's all about what the company is doing with AI, and the board is responsible for making sure that the company is going in the right direction, and the CEO and the executive team is acting on AI. So I feel like a few things that would probably be more direct instead of using AI for conversations and note-taking, which is the utility aspect of it in the board meetings, is what are the sales offerings that the company is building on products and services, and how are we integrating AI into that? There's been plenty of discussion around that. Also, hiring, right? I mean, I think the general opinion that I've heard over the last 3 days is that AI is not going to take our jobs. It's only going to improve our jobs in future. I kind of disagree with that. I feel like AI will surely take a few jobs in the near future, and then maybe in a few years we'll learn what other kinds of jobs humans can do. And lastly, AI for sales, right? Meaning if we don't have the right set of offerings and right set of sales automation and marketing automation that has AI integrated, we'll not be able to sell at the volume that our competitors are selling. So AI across our GTM function as well is something that the boardroom needs to kind of make sure that the execs are focused on and are doing to grow the company's top line.
I've been at BTech. I'm a student at UCLA right now. Right? So I'm getting my executive MBA. Like you got yours at Brown, congratulations.
Thank you.
UCLA trying to do the same thing. I'm trying to be like you one day, right? So one of the things that we had some tech conferences, and one thing that came out, and I'm just going to share what I heard. So this is coming from the horse's mouth. This is somebody from IBM, somebody from Microsoft, and somebody from Oracle, and some other, top tier tech companies in the United States. And one of the things you hear a lot, and it's a common thread, I heard it because you take notes and you see the takeaways. One common thread was, AI is not going to take your job. People who are using AI will take your jobs. You're not going to get kicked off of a board, or your board's not going to crash and burn. But boards that are using AI will probably make your company move and fall down in status and place and profitability. So, like any other tool, you have to use it masterfully and in a way that benefits your organization and your business. And you've got to think about it. You've got to think about it in many different ways. But I actually want to talk about, with AI, I just lost my whole train of thought, but it will come back. I'm going to have to come into my thought because it just went out of my head.
So let me ask you a question. So
Yes,
you were saying that when in some of your note taking,
Yes.
you ask if people are willing to be recorded,
Absolutely.
and because you're using AI to capture that information, do you get a lot of resistance? And if you do,
Never.
really?
Never received. I think, like early we on the panel, we were talking about transparency. Once people know, they realize you're not trying to be nefarious, you're not trying to catch people out. Really, for me, I might miss something. If I'm taking a note and you're talking, I'm focused on writing, not listening. So it fills in those gaps, and I'll go back to the notes, but wait, when was that said? Oh, it was right there. It catches the gap. We're human, and we're analog. And oh no, I was going to say now, we're analog. The system is digital and it's very discrete. But one thing AI will not do is it will not have your judgment. It will not have your intuition. It will not have your interpersonal ability to communicate, that connectivity that human souls have one to another. It's getting better, it's getting closer, and I believe it's going to keep rapidly advancing, but there's something inherently human about us that you need in an organization. Because how many times have you said, with no data, I don't think I like that. I don't know why, I just don't like it. And you go with that.
And that's right. I think the board's job also here now going forward in the future is to make sure the board has a complete oversight on what are the guardrails that the organization is putting around AI and the use of AI internally as well. Because if a junior engineer in the company is kind of like spitting out code using ChatGPT and it's inducing vulnerabilities in your code, that's a security gap as well. So where can and cannot AI be used is something that the boardroom needs to be aware of as to how everybody in the company is doing it, right? So the board, hence, is ultimately responsible for figuring that piece out as well. Not just for itself, but for the whole company as well. Absolutely.
Yeah, and I would add to that, when you're talking about the intuition and it doesn't have your gut feeling. So I've done a lot of acquisitions throughout my career, and you can, hypothetically, you put through AI and they'll tell you, this is a perfect match for you. You should go ahead and move forward with this. There's so many synergies. It can be this profitable. But only you can truly understand the players that are involved, the actual industry itself more deeply, especially if it's a smaller organization. You're going to have that insight. You're going to have that personal intuition, as you called it. Yeah.
Exactly. It's this use case that makes a lot of sense, but it doesn't discard the person. We're not throwing the baby out with the bathwater. It's like you need the human element in these things. It's a decision-making tool. And one of the things I say when I talk about AI, I used to work at the Pentagon. And I worked for a general, bought his coffee, got yelled at, did things for the boss to make sure he was good, right? So wherever he went, I went. I was his shadow. And next door to where the general was a whole room of 50 people, analysts, on the phone, going to conferences, doing research, and they're doing pages and pages and stacks and hours of work. They can come next door with a 2-page white sheet. They would compress all of that information, the hours they would spend doing it, so that he can go to Congress with 2 pages. And I used to work on that side, so I knew what they were doing. I was glad to be on that side. But I knew what they were doing, and you realize that's what AI can do. It is running around, collecting data, aggregating information so you can focus on other things. It's going to give you a product. Now you, with your decision-making capabilities and your executive leadership, can now look at that product and say, where do we go with this information? Is it valid? Is it not? Is this what we want to do? Is it not what we want to do? And then you get into predictive analytics. But I'll let you two talk about the what-if uses of AI.
So, well said. Summarization for sure is one of the most popular uses of AI, and that actually was around 8 years ago, even before generative AI came along. But beyond summarization, I think one thing that AI is really good at is impersonation, right? So if my prompt to a large language model is, You are a CTO, do that. Or you are a CFO, do that. AI can quickly impersonate that persona that you want the AI to be, and then it's going to start talking like that persona, right? So AI, one of the good use cases that have emerged out of LLMs is impersonation, and I think that's very good because then you can use AI to give you a lot of different perspectives, right? And that's very valuable in a boardroom because you always want to see things from different perspectives. For sure, though, that AI or LLMs right now are still very generic in the information they spit out, so you need to make sure that there is some validation around those perspectives. And when things like summarization is happening, nothing relevant or critical gets missed out of the summary, right? And that's why I think a multi-agent environment would be a fruitful environment in the future. I know Microsoft is investing a lot in multi-agent AI. Yeah. Predictive analytics is what you asked, though, right? Predictive analytics. Well, it's all about data, right? So you can't make predictions unless you have the right data. And then there goes another topic where to get AI to get you the analytics that you want, specifically futuristic predictions, you need to feed your data, your sales data, your business data to the LLM, which has a bunch of security implications directly because the AI provider, you have to trust the AI provider to know where that data is going. So trusting the AI provider itself is a big thing. Blockchain is a technology that we have not yet discussed, but AI is an amazing use for, or blockchain is an amazing infrastructure for AI because blockchain makes sure that you have cryptographic validation of where your data is going. Data assurance, yeah. Yep. Yeah.
Predictive analytics, it's so important for somebody that's as a CFO. Like this is something that we absolutely have wanted and have been working on for years. And so AI is something, when you're looking at your sales, for example, or you're just talking about earlier, is that gives you that advantage in the marketplace if you can be able to predict that more accurately than your competitor. And it's the same thing as a CFO. So we're going through a cash crunch, for example. We want to know exactly when are we going to run out of cash or are we going to run out of cash? And that predictive analytics is something that could really help us with that.
And I remember we were talking the other day, probably 2 days ago. I think it was day one of the conference. And I think the analogy came up about when it comes to AI. Everyone's using it. Everyone's using the same thing. There's a level of all ships rising the tide, right? So all these companies are using the same thing. And if you think of, because I'm a car guy, right? So I was thinking of Formula One, NASCAR, and racing. Same engine, same weight, same horsepower, same aerodynamics, same stickiness of the brakes. Everything's the same. I mean, the tires. Everything's the same. What is the difference? What is the one thing that's different?
The driver.
The human element. Because the mechanical things are all the same. All things considered, the cars are going to go as fast as the cars. But the only thing that changes is the human element. So you still have to be the driver, the conductor, the orchestrator, the prompter of the AI to enable it to do what you want it to do. And the person who can do that the most skillful is going to have that competitive advantage. But the people who adopt it first will have a leapfrog ahead of that and get ahead of it.
For sure.
So it's one of those things where some people think it's utopian, some people think it's dystopian, some people think it's a boogeyman. Whatever you think about it, it's here. You've been using it for a long time. Who's traveled out of the country lately? The last time I came back to the States, I was in England last month. And I walk up to the counter, passport out, the guy's like, "Have a great day, Mr. Matthews." I'm like, "But I didn't even show you." I just kept walking. I'm like, of all these people, you knew me and you called me by my name, looked dead at me and said, "Had a great day." And I just kept walking. I was like, well, that was bizarre. But I've been through before where it didn't know who I was, and I had to sit there, I had to look at my paperwork, and I guess it didn't work. So those things advance, and they advance rapidly. What side of that wave do you want to be on?
So let me give you an anecdote here.
Oh, yeah.
Funny that you mentioned facial recognition. I'm not a U.S. citizen, so every single time I come into U.S., they check my passport, visa, fingerprints, all that stuff, and it's been great for the past few years. I have an iPhone as well, and now my phone is unlocked using my facial recognition.
Absolutely.
So guess what? I have a 3-year-old, or 3 year younger to me brother, not a 3-year-old. He can unlock my iPhone, or my iPhone gets unlocked because it thinks that him is me. Wow. I can't do that vice versa. But I can unlock his iPhone. I don't know why though, right? But there's a security problem right there. Sometimes I don't want my brother to be able to unlock my iPhone. Most times I don't. So that's like a classic example of facial recognition going wrong in a sibling situation.
Absolutely.
And with the siblings, they say that there's 7 people on this planet which look similar to you.
Really? I love that. Hey, family. Now, if I'm not mistaken, you have a story about this doppelganger effect in AI. Well, I do tell. I'm sipping the tea now.
Yes, we were having a conversation about how much facial recognition has advanced when you were telling the story about coming into the country and such. And I brought up the case where I was kicked out of a casino because of my twin sister. And security came up to me. We'd already put her back in her hotel room, locked the door. No, you're staying home tonight. We went back to the casino, and security came up to me, and they insisted that it was me, and asked me to leave politely.
Did you leave? Were you able to convince them that it was your twin sister?
Nope. Oh, everybody has that story. Oh, it's my twin sister, I swear.
Yeah.
Yes, everyone says that.
That story is unbelievable in a casino setting for sure.
Yeah.
Yep.
But it's getting better. And, there have been people who have been apprehended. Certain countries use criminal and identity detection. People have been arrested falsely because the AI wasn't there yet. But let's be real. ChatGPT, let's just talk about that one, is less than 2 years old. And if you think things aren't changing, it took less than, 2 months to get to 1 million users? There was no other system, platform that's out there. Google, Alphabet, Apple, name the ones, name the top 5 corporations. None of them got to 1 million as quick as ChatGPT, and it wasn't even close. Less than 2 months, 1 million people, it's not going anywhere. And GPT 3.5 was good. It was the kindergartner, and 4 is the high schooler. 5, 6, whatever comes next is going to be that collegiate person, and then it's going to be the executive MBA from Brown, and then I don't know what comes up there because I think that's not dependable. So, but you see, it's going to be an engineer like you, and it's just going to keep going. And if you catch it late, you're not going to have the tools to navigate the tool. You're not going to have the skill set to navigate the tool. What do you do at that point? So I am pro-use, but I'm also very sage and wise and sober when it comes to the governance side of using AI for corporate governance. Govern the tool as you're governing the corporation, because you have a duty of care, a duty of loyalty, and a duty of oversight. Those are legal things that you have to do as a fiduciary on a board and make sure of that. Do not let this tool open you up to a gap and expose you and your company to things that you didn't think about. So use AI to think about the things you didn't think about.
I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Like you have a good thought process here. Where not to use AI in a boardroom setting?
Ooh. With proprietary information. I would not use it with proprietary information because it's going to someone it's going through an architecture that you don't control. At some point, the input you put in there is going somewhere in a repository that potentially, maybe not. I mean, if they're using blockchain, maybe it's protected, but maybe someone else can use it. So imagine if you're Coke and you're Pepsi and I'm RC, and you're putting in your formula, and I'm getting them both. And I'm like, wait. So I can make something that's even better than Coke and Pepsi. Because somehow I asked the question and it's aggregating the data from both of you and giving me the best of both worlds. I've just violated, my company's like, great, I'm getting promoted, but your companies have been compromised. And now when your sales fall and your investors start suing you guys because RC Cola now is the #1 cola on the planet, there's a problem there. So I know I'm super exaggerating, but think about the case in your organization. If you're in places where you do proprietary work, biotech, if you're somewhere where you're doing innovation, if you're working with defense industry, aviation, things where everything's hush and quiet, you don't want that information out.
Well, actually, I mean, you bring up a great point, but this is the exact problem that Silicon Valley is most focused on right now, right? Because the companies that have the engineering talent and infrastructure to be able to afford it are doing exactly that. Hosting your own AI models in your own servers, in your own data centers, and training it on your own data with anonymized data or real data. I mean, you could kind of anonymize real data and whatnot, is the way most tech companies are going forward. But that, again, is a luxury that's only with some high-tech companies who can afford to do that. And for the majority of the business out there, I'd say 99% of them, who cannot afford to do that, and they rely on ChatGPT or Gemini, so it's outsourced, hosted by some other company, OpenAI or Google. That's a big problem, because then you're sharing your data with them. Not that Google already doesn't know everything about my personal life. Now it's going to start knowing everything about my business as well. And that's not good.
No, and you make a good point. Like, you're in a large company, you work for large companies. I work for Headspace Coaching. Chetty works for Chetty. His boss is kind of awesome. Chetty's a cool guy. You should meet that guy. But in that, right, working for yourself, my company is not big enough to create my own GPT. I can't create my own, transform. I've got to use what's already out there, and I do. In my ChatGPT, I have one for Headspace coaching. And if I say, you know me, if I say, write a bio, you know me, it says, as a retired Marine, and I'm like, wow, it really does know me. And sometimes I'll say, is this true or are you making stuff up? And it doesn't know. And I say, ask me 10 questions to clarify your response. And it asks me things. It knows where I was born. It knows that I like cars. It knows my favorite color is yellow. It knows my favorite tagline is stay amazing. It just knows these things and it puts it in there in text. I'm like, this copy sounds like me. But I have not yet used anything that it provides me and used it 100%. Because I like the human element. I need to put my think on it. Because I don't want to become synthesized. I don't want to become synthetic. I still want to become authentic. So for me, it's good for the framework. It's good for the structure, but I want to put the bones. I want to put the meat on it.
Right. Right. I think the human element here is interesting to talk about as well, because the modern AI is actually very empathetic as well. So you can tell the large language model to be nice, be kind. If your prompt starts with be nice or be kind, it will be nice and kind for majority of the use cases. It is more creative than us. It knows more languages than us. It can calculate faster than us. Computers were always faster than human brain. The place where now AI is getting dangerous is because AI is cognition level close to human beings, but the bandwidth which with AI can communicate amongst itself and all the computers is far more than the bandwidth that two humans can communicate on, right? And that's where it starts to get dangerous.
Well, we probably saw it maybe 8 months ago where you had to shut off some AI models because it was becoming the rise of the machine. You know, the sum of all fears that it's going to turn into the Terminator for real. You know, like this AI model was beginning to think that it was the owner and that the human was not necessarily was an impediment. That's a little scary. And the only way to go in there, it wasn't like they changed the prompt; they pulled the plug, which means we could be one keystroke away, one and zero away from that happening again. You've got to be mindful of these things because there is an inherent risk. And when you're in a place where risk tolerance is low, and you manage risk all the time with your numbers, you got to make sure that the risk is manageable for you and within your specs or your parameters. So you're given because you got to give a certain report or account to A, the board, and B, the chief executive, and to the stockholders, shareholders, and everyone else that's like waiting for you to do whatever it is you do. So there's a lot riding on your tires. There's a lot of weight there. And I think you have to be very mindful, cognizant, sage about how you use it. But don't be afraid to use it. Dip your toe in the water.
I mean, you have to use it. If you're not using AI, then you're going to fall behind really fast. Right? So I don't think there's a way around using AI. For now, it's just about how do you put your guardrails like we talked about and make sure that you're telling AI exactly what you need to and never, ever reveal your personally identified information to an open source model.
I have a question. I know it's just us talking up here, but I want to look out there. Just ask, does anyone use AI in any form?
Yeah, stand up, stretch your arm.
Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid. Okay. Is anyone adamant against using AI?
Oh, wow.
Okay. You know, or doesn't use it. I'll go there. I'll even go there. Don't use it. Adamant. The whole spectrum. I don't use it. Haven't used it. Don't want to ever use it. See what as well. It's awesome. It's here, and there may be good use cases where you don't use it, but it's good. Now, are you aware of it? And that's what we can ask, isn't it? Because that's a choice you've made, which is awesome. That's right. Absolutely. Thank you. And I appreciate that. And I'm going to try and paraphrase a little bit because you didn't have a microphone on. But he was saying that spell check is a form of AI. That it's a form of AI that he trusts, and the result or the effect of failure is minimal, so it's acceptable. But then there's other cases where the risk is too high and the confidence is too low, you to adopt it. That's a sage decision based on your values, goals, and information. That makes sense, but you're aware of it. So you have determined in your entity, whatever that may be, that is not for you. And that's great. But at some point, at some point that may change and it may not change, because we can think of other technologies throughout time that people like stay away from that. That's kind of evil, and then at some point we get more confident and it goes through. So.
Well, it's like Ankit was saying, like you really need to be on the forefront of it.
Yeah.
Not just in business. For example, we were talking about when you're going through a job search. Right now, everyone, all of the other candidates, they're all using AI, they're all using chat, they're all using Teal to come up with crafting their resumes and their cover letters specifically for the organization, the role that they're applying for.
Yeah.
And if you're not doing that, you're already at a disadvantage.
It's true.
So one of the problems that I'm seeing with AI in startups specifically is it's harder to create differentiation with AI. Now, whether it's you submitting a resume for a job or you creating a product that does something for someone, it's hard to create differentiation in today's world because AI is already so powerful. Yes, if you know what you're doing, it can accelerate that by a factor of 100x, I'd say. But then being genuinely creative about something that doesn't really exist, or, well, they say that there's no such thing as innovation, everything is renovation. But the next cycle of renovation that needs to come about in most of the tools that we have a Copilot in Windows, we have a Copilot for Office, we have a Copilot in our Chrome browser and Google Workspace, everywhere. But that's because those platforms were already there and they are the incumbents. But if there's a new startup that's trying to create something with AI, it's really hard to create differentiation, and that's one of my worries for smaller young companies out there.
Like, well, case in point, last year, what was it? It was probably maybe 15 months ago now when Alphabet, Google was like, red alert, all hands on deck, everyone get back here, we're going to figure this out. Because Microsoft is beating us from this chat GPT thing is going to crush us.
That's right.
So they had to make sure we focus our effort on this or they were going to be left out of it. Because if it's going to be a top three, they want to be one of the top three. That's right. They're in the information aggregation business. So if they miss that wave, they would not be there. And I urge you in your spaces, if you're not using it or abreast of it or considering it, you could miss on that wave too, because they say this is the next industrial revolution or the next revolution or the next technological revolution. This is it. Mobile phones is one in our existence. This is the next one. Internet, mobile phones, AI, arguably is the next one. And you've got to figure out what side of that chasm you want to be on. And I'm not saying be a zealot or all about it. Just know, even if you don't use it, so you know you don't use it, but you know all about it. It's good to know about it so you can actually make decisions based on what you know and what you don't know. And that makes sense. At least makes sense to me.
Surely is. Let's take some questions from you.
Please. If anyone has a question, please grab the mic and beatbox if you'd like to.
I wish I would have known about this room 3 days ago. I've been in the marketing side of things, and I didn't realize how much talent and other stages are here. I have a bigger question. Time to bring AI to the boardroom. I believe it's time to bring data to the boardroom. And here's why I say that. I'm a CRM business intelligence expert, and for 25 years, I have been connecting the dots with data, from data silos all the way to the output, understanding source of truth and version of truth, ETL flows, integrity, and insight, and driving value. I don't write code, I'm not a programmer, but I have been the technology arm glued at the hip with IT, working with sales, marketing, and ops. So I ask this question to a lot of people with this type of experience, especially, my tech peeps, because my entire career is based on driving insights from data and ethics. So before we get into how AI is used, our whole data landscape is built on legacy systems, and oftentimes we have to look at those legacy systems and build on top of them, rip and replace, whatever it is. We are now in an age where we can pull data from so many different sources. And I see AI where CRM was 25 years ago, just more data. But what hasn't caught up, if you do a gap analysis on the org chart, what hasn't caught up is the talent. In order to effectively drive technology evolution and innovation, you have to have a framework. I use people, process, technology framework to implement data-driven strategies and drive data transformation. The org chart has not caught up to that skill set. So I ask, who owns the data lens in your company? Because IT folks really handle the plumbing and the infrastructure and the security and safety. But the ethics and drawing insights and holding everyone accountable, check your ego at the door. It's not personal, it's just data. Let's innovate, fail fast, scale quickly. Let's have the hard conversations. Let's pull together the collective intelligence from all the business units and drive data innovation. And I have just found that the org chart has not caught up to that skill set. Where is the chief data officer? Why isn't the chief marketing officer a chief metrics officer? Where is the chief insights officer? And if you focus on data and business intelligence from the CFO side of things, which is EBITDA and margins, and you don't have elasticity in that, then you're not going to be able to innovate. And revenue managers have their own focus. They got their, CapEx, OpEx, but innovation and data integrity and data insights comes from a different skill set that is missing from the org chart. So when you talk about scaling the right talent and people, it shouldn't be your IT folks driving all of that innovation on data. They don't own the data lens, and they don't know really how it works for the business unit. It's someone like me that sits in the middle of that, and I feel like my role in the C-suite is not going to exist for another 10 years till it catches up. So how do we hire effectively to raise these data-born leaders like myself, who started my career as a list broker at Equifax 25 years ago? I know where data was born and raised, okay? And now we have so much more to add to that. And we have ethics to add to that. And not only how are you building the language models, how are you using those tools? So I also feel that corporate social responsibility isn't just about one-use plastic and planting trees. Data is corporate social responsibility. So I just feel that there needs to be a place in the C-suite that manages the data lens, and that will feed all of the other business units to do what they do best. What are your thoughts on that?
First of all, grab a seat. First of all, that was pretty amazing. First of all, I would work for you in a heartbeat just because you're so visionary. But I'm going to let you two go, because this is good.
So,
breaking the popcorn on this one.
So I feel your pain, and I have actually been in that situation before, where I was working for an organization where we bought a lot of companies. Everyone had different legacy systems, and it was the same thing. We couldn't get the data that we needed. And much like you, I hired the chief data officer to do that for me. So we're in the same page, absolutely. And I guess you want to ask that.
So you brought up a really, really good point, and I feel your pain as well. In fact, for most of my career so far, I've been working with data directly. I'm an engineer, obviously. So IT, which is the superset of AI, has I in it as much as T, and I actually precedes T. So we talk about technology, but information, which is data, is actually more important than technology. And I'm a big believer of data-driven decision-making. A common advice is follow your gut, your intuition. But if you're in a boardroom context or in a team context of any kind, there's 6 different guts and 6 different hearts and 6 different souls. And then how do you make decision-making across that? And data is the only source of truth that you all can trust on, and then apply your intuition on top of the data. So I've seen CIO as a position that owns data in some companies. Chief data officer is also a role that I've seen around. Big data, data analytics, data engineering. These are some of the disciplines that are coming aboard.
They're focused with data science backgrounds, which is not my background. But I can certainly look at an ETL process and understand vaporware and how to change statements of work and actually monetize the data. So it's just an interesting place to be. And I'm just curious, like, what new roles do you see developing under the data umbrella that aren't necessarily coming from the umbrella of IT?
This makes sense. What you're saying makes sense. And we're at the precipice or the beginning, the cusp of a new era. In that new era, mindsets have to be retooled, skill sets have to be retooled, and tool sets, AI being one of them, have to be, that is the retool that caused the revolution. So those things have to go in concert. Once you had a car, you had to get drivers. Once you had an airplane, you had to get pilots. So once you have a certain skill, once you learn how to do heart surgery, you need cardiologists. So once there's a new advancement, the skill sets to fuel that have to come. And what's going to happen, 2 things are going to happen. You're going to have traditionalists who, this is how business has always been done. It's going to be the same pyramid structure it's always been. You're going to have futurists. Where's my futurist back there? You're going to have futurists, the futurist CEO. You're going to have futurists who are going to say, well, if you look at the problem, you try to solve the problem through the eyes that created the problem, you're going to get the same issue. You're going to get the same issue. You're going to look at it through a different lens. Open the aperture a little bit. Turn the chess table. See
That's
what
what
do we
I
need
do.
now going forward.
I tell people CRM is not a product, it's not a platform, it's a philosophy, and that's how I drive data transformation. But I'd love to leave it up for other questions.
But you're the vanguard in this space, and I hear the frustration in your voice, but I want you to actually be excited because you're a forefront, forward-thinking vanguard of this thought, and it's a lonely space to be. The air is thin up there, but yet sooner or later, in about 5 years, you're gonna be like, I told you. When everyone jumps on board, you're gonna be like, what have I been saying? So I would actually write some of the stuff you're saying and become the thought leader in that space. People will catch up. Academia will be the last to catch up, but it will catch up. The vanguards like you will incite somebody like this phenomenal human being here who's going to be like, let's do that. And then you're going to implement it in your organization, be like, game on. Their companies are going to advance. And you know what's going to happen? Everyone's going to be like, wait, what did they do? Let's do that. Hey, remember that thing you were talking about 5 years ago? Let's talk about that data management science executive that aggregates all the data to make business decisions that makes us advance. You're ahead of the curve, so it's frustrating because you're at the finish line like, where's everybody? Stay amazing and stay focused and do not lose that because that is, people aren't there yet. They're not seeing what you're seeing. Only 4. I'll speak quick.
It's a shame that PXO 2.0 did not say save the best for the last. But I have to tell you, this is the most relevant topic in the entire 3 days I've been around.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, having said that, one thing, but kind of thing. One thing you stated the value of AI. Hey, I don't need a secretary to take notes. I beg to correct you. Today I have the stupid device in my hand, in my pocket, and there are a number of times it started something, and then I get the phone call, I'm taking a look at it, my entire phone conversation is on the damn computer. And computers are phenomenal. There are plenty of things which can make notes. So I have to plead that that is not contribution of AI to the boardroom. If you have a question, time to bring it, I would say no, not unless you want to come right. Because honestly, if AI can do this, why in the world would I waste my time flying from Washington, D.C., thousands of dollars and sit here listening to all of you? I can go to AI and say, hey AI, what would I have learned by going to CXO 2.0? They had a fireside chat, time to bring AI to the boardroom. Please give me a report. And I would get it.
Yeah.
Is it authentic? I don't know. I don't nothing about you three, but I think you're as authentic as I can get to meet anywhere in the world. AI, sir, I'm sorry. Dan, it's not going to be that. I hope AI does a natural death because it's the most destructive, stupid thing in our society. And I leave with a challenge. If you can tell me something great in the 1.5 minutes you still leave, great. But Tesla, the wonderful car, self-driving. Please tell me which of you will put your mother. I'm not saying mother-in-law. You may put your mother-in-law. But which of you will put your mother, grandmother, child, or grandchild and say from point A to point A, drop my grandchild to school and come back. I'd like to talk to you.
I want to hug you because I woke up this morning and the thought in my mind was, I have a car that will back up itself and park. It doesn't do much else. It's kind of, it thinks it's smart, but it's not really that smart. But it will reverse and park for you better than I can park.
Yes, sir.
You know how many times I override it by stepping on the brake? The car's beeping and I'm looking close, the mirror's like, I wouldn't get this close. So yes, there's a point where they have autonomous vehicles, but some of them are still at the stage where they're level 3, where you can still override with the human interaction. I personally love the analog side. The sexy beautifulness of being a human is beautiful to me. I love the gray because leaders, human beings, we are in the gray space. We don't live in we work in the ones and zeros space, but our brains are like gray. And to me, leaders navigate the gray better than any system can because you use the collection, the aggregation of all the things you've had since birth to that day when you're making that decision to kind of assess, yeah, I know that's what the data said, but you know, we're going to do that. And it's the right decision. So I don't think AI is going to take the humanness away. It is a tool. It is a tool. You talked about cars. There was a time when we would have walked here and it would have taken me 2 weeks to get here. But I jumped in the car for 5 hours, I was here. I love that tool. AI is a tool that should only augment the human experience, and in this case, the human experience in a board. Do I replace my secretary? No, because she's in charge of compliance. This is just a tool so she can match up her notes. She's a secretary, she's a female, she's a lady. So her notes with the notes I've got. If she's missing something, she can add. If it got it wrong, it can change it. If it's spelled Chetty wrong, she can go and, that's supposed to be Chetty. And so, do I think the human's going away? No, these things support the human.
So, sir, I like your thought of chain of thought here, and I want to indulge in this conversation and dialogue as well. So, maybe not. I would not necessarily rely on Tesla autopilot today. In 10 years, most likely. And 10 years ago, and since last 20 years, I have been flying planes, which are probably for the 70–80% of the journey are running on autopilot, right? So it's 90, sure. So not in cars today, but have been in planes for I don't know how many years already, right? So this is a spectrum, and just like you said, AI is a tool, and specifically given I know some nuances about the engineering side of things as well. In a multi-AI environment where there's AI, cross-checking AI, seems like which is not too far in the future as well, the trust in AI will have to grow and will grow because there's competition that's driving the development of AI itself, and where there's competition, there is growth.
Emily, please take us home.
Autopilot, but there are two qualified pilots, not even one, there's two.
That's right, hence it's a tool.
And I would say good luck to everything, including AI. All I can say is when there are self-driving trucks on the road, you're not going to be finding on the interstate. Fortunately, before that happens, I stopped driving. Thank you.
Well, please, Emily, take us home.
I just want to point out that it's the airline pilot sitting in the room that was clapping for that.
All right, another question.
I just got few seconds real quick. So, Mr. Matthews, you were amazing, and thank you so much for everything. It was really an intuitive session, and out of these 3 days, right, this was, I feel this is the best one, and we still were waiting for the last moment. You know, this was something really special, and I come from an AI/ML development and product background, so I used to work for Amazon before, and now I'm trying to understand how AI/ML is really making things go better, and it's really helping for a use case to advance rather than it being a forceware. And this was really helpful, and thank you so much. I'm not going to take much of your time.
Thank you so much. You know, I'm so blessed and fortunate to be on a panel with forward-thinking thought leaders who, as we were discussing this, had oppositions of thought and thought about the counterpoints and the what-ifs and the people that don't like it and the boogeyman and the great use case and the bad worst use case and the Terminator coming to fruition. We talked about the whole spectrum, and hopefully it added value to you in some way, shape, or form, and can help you to consider. If we're not adding value to you or helping you to think a little deeper and just kind of go around the corner of those thoughts and question what you thought and what you believe, what is the point? Because we are business leaders and we are executives and we are thought leaders. We are leading from the front. And in that space, we have to question these things. We have to think about these things and see how is it going to benefit the mission and purpose that we have for our lives, our businesses, our organizations, or our boards. Madam CFO.
Absolutely. Just to back up what you said that so well. It's not really much
said-
else I
he
can
said
add to
right.
that, other than, yes, I agree. As a CFO, we need to be on the forefront, and we need to embrace it and move forward.
Absolutely. And as you were talking about development, who said this? I'm trying to think who said this. Honestly, do good. Let's do good things.
So I guess I have a more direct answer to that question. The use cases that we know of AI, of AI right now, are still probably just we're barely scratching the surface. So I mean, LLM is just the beginning of what AI can be, because now is for the first time that society has started to realize how powerful AI can really be. Because just like the gentleman over there said, we've had AI for decades, and spell check is the most simplest example of what AI has been for decades now. So this is still only the beginning of what AI is. Now, 10 years, 20 years down the line, you look at things like AI merging with robotics. It's not only going to take the white-collar jobs away, it will just completely change the fabric of our society. Nobody ever thought that AI is going to first come for the jobs of the very people who created AI, which is the software engineers. Because they thought AI would be doing the low-level stuff, right? The stuff that matters less. But hey, that's not happening. The most jobs that AI is affecting right now are the people who are writing code. So we don't know what the use cases of futuristic AI would be, and I think we're only scratching the surface with just LLM, and LLM is just a form of AI that predicts the next word, and that's what it does right now.
Thank you, panel. I have to cut you off now.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you. Appreciate it.
That's wonderful. Thank you. I'll give you a real hug.
Let's take a picture.